to everybody for attending today. First of all, good afternoon. My name is Engineer Nayef Alhaddad. I'm the head of research and strategic planning at Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects, as well as the chair for the MENA chapter of the World Association of PPP Units and PPP Professionals. And on behalf of WAPP's president and its executive director, and as well as my colleagues at the leadership committee for the MENA chapter today. We have started, I would like to welcome you all to our first of the series of webinars, meeting with PPP units in the MENA region. And today I would like to meet up with a very good friend of mine, a great colleague. Every time I meet him, we run into each other into conventions. And every time I meet with him, I would learn something new. So allow me to present to you Engineer Atter Hannoura. He is the director of the Public-Private Partnership Central Unit in the Ministry of Finance in Egypt. Mr. Hannoura has more than 42 plus years of professional experience. He has a Bachelor's of Engineering from Alexandria University. He has a diploma in large procurements, and he has a law degree. So he has the whole package of dealing with PPPs. And Mr. Atter also had like around 9 to 10 years working in the World Bank. And he has worked also in the private sector. And in 2007, he have joined the Ministry of Finance, the PPP unit. And since then, he have worked along on developing the Egyptian PPP law, the procurement process, as well as putting it together on the map as of it's today, and working on the projects. And today we're going to have the opportunity to hear from him, learn from him, and get, all the kind of, I would say, lessons learned from experience. So please welcome Mr. Hannoura. Mr. Atter, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you, to learn from you. To all the attendees, please, if you have questions, we're gonna leave the last part of this webinar to answer your questions. Type them down if you have anything. We're gonna inshallah make room for it. So, Mr. Atter, welcome, and thank you for making today's webinar. Today we're gonna talk about the Egyptian PPP in practice, the organization, the procurement process. How the progression of the law. What does Egyptian PPP unit have in offering? For opportunities and the pipeline, and also, please let us know of like the lessons learned from enrich us with your experience. The floor is all yours, Mr. Atter.
Thank you very much for having me here. Actually, the scope that Mr. Nayef wants me to talk about is wide. Want to talk about the structure of the PP in Egypt and the pipeline that we have, the legal framework, which we started. Our first edition of the law was in 2010, and now we have another amendment for the law in 2022, after implementing our law for 10 years. And we have a lot of reasons that why did we amend this. I'm trying to download my presentation, but I've got some problems with it.
So right now, like, why are you doing this? Let us know how big is the PPP unit? It's center, and of the expertise that you have right now currently leading it.
Look, our PP unit currently, we've been transformed from a PPP unit to a PPP department. So now
Okay.
our volume, let me say, or our position in the organization, or the Ministry of Finance organization, is much more bigger. Currently, we are almost 17 people, but very well experienced, and we're expanding to reach 34.
Nice.
We're under recruitment of. We definitely, on the last few years, we lost a lot of my colleagues for other organizations like the EBRD and the World Bank and the Ernst and Young, Pricewaterhouse, and all these kind of organizations took from my people.
You're like a center, you know?
Pardon?
You're like a training center. You give them the capacity and the knowledge.
One way or another, yeah. So this was that's our case. I want to give you here. I'll try to put the presentation on. The presentation will give you a very quick out glimpse on the structure of the PP and the institutional framework that we have. We have three layers of the institutional framework. The PPP central unit is the active on-ground unit, and it's in the middle. And we have a regulatory body called the Supreme Committee, which is headed by the Prime Minister. And we have the third layer, which is a very important layer, are the PPP satellite units that we create, and it is located in the line ministry or the line authority that is tendering the project, the owners of the project. This is the three levels are very important, and especially the units that are PPP, as we call it, PP satellite units, in different ministries or different authorities who are tendering the projects are very important, because when you have...
Are they helping you?
Pardon?
Are they helping you?
Actually, we are helping them. We should be helping them.
See, that's the thing, because we were thinking about the same process, about like having the satellite, but does it work? I mean, like...
It's very important. And I'll tell you what kind of mistakes that we made in creating this projects or this satellite units. Let me try to share the new version of the...
Do you have at least mailed it to me? I could have at least maybe share it from my side. If there is a problem on your side.
I'll send it to you immediately.
Okay, please. So in the meantime, I mean, what's the mandate of the Egyptian PPP unit? Because in some places it's advisory, in some places it's a procurement, in some places it's regulatory.
Look, the PPP central unit is the implementing arm.
Okay.
And the PPP Supreme Committee is where we are we sharing anything? Can you see anything that I'm sharing?
Yes, but you're sharing the screen itself. You're not sharing the file.
Oh.
You're sharing the actual screen for the Zoom. Yeah. Maybe if you have sent it via email, I could just...
I'll send it to you immediately.
Okay, please.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
No, it's all right. So when you talk about like, the mandate, because in some PPP units, like I said, for example, I met with a lot of PPP units in the region. Some of them, they have mixed core business. Some of them, some of them, there's a conflict between the mandate. They're doing regulatory and at the same time, they're doing advisory and they're doing procurement process. And there's like differences,
Did you receive the mail?
The Egyptian one does.
Did you receive the mail?
I'm just refreshing right now just to see if I got it. I think I'm getting something right.
It takes some time for security issues. Anyway, let me start about the structure of the institutional structure that we have. And actually, this institutional structure was tested for a few years or many years, and actually, and we've seen what's going in other countries till we reach this structure. And I want to say that a lot of countries took from this structure after they monitored the implementation and the amendments of this. We started with the high level, which is the Supreme Committee. We call it the PPP Supreme Committee.
PPP Supreme Committee.
the PPP Supreme Committee is headed by the Prime Minister
Okay.
with a permanent membership of 9 ministers.
So it's all
Plus,
cabinet. It's the cabinet of ministers themselves.
yes, okay, plus the minister who owns this project, if he's one of these, he's not one of these 9. Okay, like if I were talking about a project in health, okay, so in addition to this 9 or 10 ministers, we have the Minister of Health. These ministers are headed by the Prime Minister. We have Minister of Finance, Minister of Planning,
Yes.
Minister of Housing and Utilities, Minister of Electricity, Minister of Investment, Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister of Transportation, and Minister of Local Development.
Well,
Plus,
we have everybody there.
yes, plus the Minister of the legal guy, the Minister of Legal Affairs.
Yes.
He's called the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs,
Mhm.
because the Parliament is the entity that ratifies the laws. So these are the main members of the Supreme Committee. What's the role of the Supreme Committee? When we generate our pipeline through something called the Joint Committee, this is a committee that checks all the infrastructure and utilities and public services projects that the government have in their pipeline, in their plan, okay, and then we select from this, we do initial screening, and we select from these projects the project that could be tendered under the PP structure.
Yes.
And as we all know, that not all projects could be PP projects, and that's why we're doing studies and doing the value for money and doing all this kind of criteria to make sure that this is a PPP-able project and in the bankable project. So once we get this pipeline of projects, we present this pipeline to the Supreme Committee, and the Supreme Committee says that okay, we agree on this project, or we want to remove one of them or to add some of them. So by the end of the day, we have a list of a pipeline projects approved by the Supreme Committee. What does this mean? Once the Supreme Committee approved the list of projects, these projects are marked in yes, are
Yeah, I
marked.
have your presentation. Okay.
No,
You want me
please.
to walk to the slide or?
No, go ahead. Next.
Okay.
Yes.
This is the Supreme Committee. This is your unit, and this is like this.
Yes. That's the organization chart. Let's go for the next, please. Yes.
And
The
you have
Supreme
the-
Committee structure, as I mentioned. Next. These are the members of the Supreme Committee.
So when you have everybody on board, that means whatever I would say sector it is related to them will be there. They'll be supporting it, and also like talking about like how to tender it.
Why we put this structure? Okay. Actually, the structure, the basic structure was, as per the law, was the Minister of Finance, Minister of Planning, Minister of Housing, Minister of Investment, Minister of Electricity, and Minister of Transportation. Then, a few years back, the Prime Minister added the Minister of Local Development, who is the ministry related or managing all different governorates, because we found that we had a lot of projects coming from the municipalities and the governorates. So we need this minister to be there, and Minister of Trade and Industry as being one of the members of the so-called Economic Committee at the Cabinet. So that's the structure. Once we go for the approval of the pipeline, and the Supreme Committee approved the pipeline, several steps takes place here. Number one, all these projects are marked in the plan as PP.
Okay.
Minister of Finance and Minister of Planning cannot allocate any budget or any funds for this project because this under PP. Because we
Okay.
found before that some of the ministries works with us as a PP project, and on the same line they're
They're
withdrawing.
taking parallel lines.
Yes. So
Okay.
I amended the law to do this. So now, as you can see, the main role of the Supreme Committee is to approve the pipeline generated from other activities. And once we have a pipeline, each and every project in the pipeline are studied, and we do all the feasibility studies, and we present this to the Supreme Committee project by project, giving them all the financial indicators, all the technical indicators, the structure of the project, the structure of the tendering, okay? And they approve it or amend it or cancel it, whatever. Once approved, so you'll find that the tendering and contracting process is also approved for each project. Also, the dispute resolution mechanism of the project, of the contract, will go arbitration, the seat of the arbitration, the venue and arbitration, the language of arbitration, and the procedures of arbitration. It's ICC or UNICETRAL or whatever of this. All this is presented for each project and approved by the Supreme Committee. Okay? If any of these projects are cancelled, okay, no one can cancel any of the projects at any time except the Supreme Committee, because previously we suffered from this. You know, after the revolution, we have got two revolutions in
2011. Yeah.
and accordingly we had a lot of cabinets coming one after the other. Each cabinet 1 year, 9 months, 1.5 years, and then now we're much more stable. But by that time, we started the project with the minister, and then the new minister came. I don't like PPs. I don't like private sector. Cancel the project.
Yeah, it depends on the politics. Yeah.
Yes. Now I can tell him, excuse me, sir, you're not authorized to cancel the project because you were not the minister who approved the project. The project was approved by the Supreme Committee, by the headed by the Prime Minister. When
So
you have
they can submit a request to the Supreme Committee asking for cancellation, and they'll have to study it.
he have to approve. He have to request canceling a project and go to the APT.
Or
You have to go to the Supreme Committee. Okay. In other words, I'm throwing it to the wolves.
Yeah.
The Minister of Finance and the Minister of Planning will say, excuse me, we're not allocating any money for this project. Go for it. I mean, unless he have a justification, okay, he cannot cancel. Also, while we are presenting all the studies and the financial studies to the Supreme Committee, we present to them the public sector comparator, which is one important figure, and they have to approve it as well during approving the project. And there is a special approval when we are going for a direct order or an unsolicited proposal.
What do you mean direct order? Now, this is something I want to know.
Direct award is that you have a project that's very urgent and you need, and it should be a repetitive project. It's not a unique project.
Yeah.
Okay. For instance, wastewater treatment plant, something that already have done many other projects before. So you have the documents ready, you have the contract already almost ready, and the benchmark of pricing ready.
Yes.
Okay, and you have a project that you want to start working it now. Okay, something coming urgent, and you have to work it out as early as possible.
Urgency, but a public interest and high urgency.
Yes, urgency is important, and the public demand is important, and you don't want to go through all this. So you select.
How do you determine to go with who?
No, that's what I'm telling you. You select some of the companies, some of the big players that are working in Egypt, regardless is they are Egyptian companies or international companies,
Hmm.
but they are already working on a similar project in Egypt.
Okay.
Okay, that's
So
one
for
criteria.
qualification, you could ask, for example, company X, company Y, please do this project for me.
Yes, but normally we go for 3 or 4 projects. We select 3 or 4 of them, of these companies that previously qualified, and we tell
Okay.
them, please submit a
And offer.
financial proposal.
Yeah.
A financial. I don't ask for a technical proposal at this stage. Okay, because we are confident enough that they're already working in similar projects and they're successful. So we know that the technical capacity is there. So we told them, give us a financial proposal, and we compare quickly the best these 4 projects or 5 sorry proposals coming from this few companies that were selected, only financial, and we take the best out of them or negotiated with them, and then sorry, when you go to the Supreme Committee and tell them that we've selected this, okay, among very quick financial assessment, and we selected that.
Can I ask, like, further? I mean, when did you start doing this process, the direct order?
We started the direct order in 2022.
Did it work out?
Yes, in some projects.
You
But
know,
we
this would save me a lot of problems in our own local PPP unit, because this is one of the challenges. You know, PPP is made on competition. You know, I mean, and this one is one of the things, like, where you have to present a lot of justifications just to say this is a high urgency, like, for example, power or sewage or streets, etc.
I'll give you examples for the projects, 3 projects that were done through direct order. And the case actually dictates that you can go for a direct order.
Mm-hmm.
One big industrial area expanded, and there is some companies or some factories there supplied with power and electricity through some workstations, substations, transformer stations, and the capacity of electricity is not enough, and the quality of electricity is not up to the standard that they need. And there is already a power station, a substation of transformers with the network, but it needs someone to operate it, and some additional equipment and some additional connectivity should be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so the main project is there. You need some uplifting, adding some equipment, and start receiving the power and redistributing it to the supplies. Okay, we don't have enough time to do this, so actually we've done this quick price proposals, and we
Yeah.
selected the best one, and they already give him an award, and he started, and within 4 weeks it was up and running.
But Mr. Atar, this was done through, your PPP unit, not through the public entity, not
No,
looking,
no, no.
electricity.
We look. This is a very important point that you raised, Naif.
Yes.
Uh, we never work alone. We
Okay.
never work alone. We always work with the tendering authority,
Okay.
because
Okay.
they have the need, they have their plans, they know what kind of project they need now, urgency, and they have to give me the justification of urgency. Otherwise, will not approve it as a direct order. Okay, so they have the why we're going for direct order, and then we have to present the case for an urgent Supreme Committee, present the case to the committee with all this kind of ministers around, and the legal guys and the parliamentary minister, and then once they approve it, we issue on the very next day the letter of award, and we let him start working with this letter of award till after 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks we sign the contract. But he from by this letter of award they start working. And actually in the cases that we had, 1 or 2 transformers substations,
Yeah.
okay, and one wastewater treatment plant.
I don't know if you like your attendees, but I have learned something new today. I know like something which was impossible that you guys made it possible. Because we're having the same issue, but the law is always about competition, doesn't allow direct order.
Look, in the law, as I will present it in a few minutes, especially when you look, the main and only the main procurement procedures is the international competitive bidding. You have to go to market with full competition and transparent competition. This is the best, and it is the main procedures for procurement. Exceptionally, when I say exceptionally,
Yeah.
then it's an exception that have to require some criteria to qualify this project to be to fulfill these restrictions. Accordingly, we can go for the exception. If it does not fulfill the criteria of being a direct award, then it have to be to go through procurement. One of these major important uh, 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 criteria is the urgency.
Yes.
This is
Especially
one.
we talk about like public infrastructure or public utilities.
Yes, normally.
Yes.
One of the other criteria, which is very, very, very rarely happens, but we have to put it in the law. If you want to have a project that you know that the know-how or the technology is owned by this company, and this technology is only theirs.
And we talk,
Okay.
like, for example, Microsoft Office or like
For instance, that's the
what's that?
famous example. Yes.
Yeah, it's
We-
exclusive. You cannot
yeah,
do anything.
if you want this, so get this guy and start negotiating. But it's
Yeah.
very important to have a benchmark.
Mhm.
Okay, don't do a direct order for a project that it's the first time to do it. For instance, uh, direct award in a port. If this is a port like the dry ports that we've done, it's the first time to deal with a dry port in Egypt,
Yes.
and we've got a lot of seaports around us, but it was the first dry port. I cannot give this dry port to a direct order.
That's true. Because it's your first time. You want to test it. Yes.
So we've done the first and the second dry port very competitively. If we have a small dry port in a specific area and we want to do it quickly as possible, then we can do it. If there's an urgency, okay, we can do it under a direct order or direct award, because I have already contracts, agreements structured, already tested, and in
So like
implementation.
all the
And we
bad
have a
stuff.
benchmark
Yes.
in negotiating the cost, the
That's true.
financial cost. Okay, but without having a benchmark and without having a previous project, I don't recommend to go for a direct award. Direct award is not the best solution, even if it's very urgent. Okay, that's in general the role of the Supreme Committee. It's by the end of the day working as the regulatory body of the PP. The PP Central Unit is all of us. We are the guys who do the structure
Mhm.
project. We test the project. We work with the advisors. Okay, we do all the feasibility study. We do the risk allocation with our advisors. We structure the procurement procedures. We structure we do the pre-qualification documents, the pre-qualification, sorry, the RFP and the draft contract. So we work this all with our partners, with the line ministry, the owners of the project. But during the PPPs, sorry, during the studies and presenting to the Supreme Committee and the procurement, we are leading because we have the capacity and experience in doing this. We're not doing anything alone. We're doing them. We're putting them on the stage with us. They have to
Yes.
assume some kind of responsibility on that. And everything we finish, we tell them review and approve, and they normally approve. If they have got any comments, we discuss comments with them. We want them to be acquainted with the system, acquainted with the documents, acquainted with the evaluation, how the contract structured, because they will be responsible after a few years on managing this contract. So they have to
That's true.
understand it very well and absorb it, and they will never do this except when they are with us every day. And this was one of my first mistakes.
How come?
2006, 2007, we thought ourselves that we are the people of the PPs, and this was the first or second project. We're very worried about the projects, and we know that the PPP capacity in the line ministry is not matured yet. So we incubated the project, and we start working with the project with our advisors in-house. And then when the project was everything fine, tendered, awarded, and the project companies, everything's there, ready to implement the project, we give them, guys, here is the project ready for you to take and continue working on the project and continue managing the project during the financial closure and the construction and the operation. This was a very big mistake, because our colleagues in the line ministry treated this contract as an alien. They
Of
didn't
course.
they didn't understand it.
Describe the
Who
situation
wrote that? Pardon?
You're describing a situation I'm having, you know?
Yes, this was a big mistake. So in our and it took us a long time for them to let them start understanding the project, because they were rejecting it, because they thought that they understand that this is not ours. That's the PP unit.
Of
That's
course,
a lot
they'll
of work, and
still
then
do it.
they throw it to us. So we are responsible now. So it worked perfect after that when we took them during the studies, the selection of the project, during the studies, even if they didn't understand, but we keep them updated with
Yeah.
everything and let them review and come involved with us in each and every step. So by the time we reach, they at least 60%, 70% of the contract of the structure was at least understood by them. So when you give them when they take over in the implementation, they at least have good knowledge about the project, and we continue supporting them till
Oh,
we
yeah.
find that they are matured enough to continue alone.
So when I
Okay.
look at your structure, it's almost exactly up to 90 or 80% the same as our structure.
Look,
And
this structure is not the full detailed structure. I'm just saying about the
like the, yeah, I know it's
up to
almost
the
exactly the
general
same
managers.
breakdown.
But before this, uh, uh, departments in light blue, there are some sub,
Yeah, yeah. That's standard.
but we have three main departments or sub departments, which is the PPP project tendering, okay, and then we have another one for the feasibility studies and financing, and the third one is the for contract implementation and follow up and legal studies.
Which is along the process of the cycle of a BBB
Yeah.
contract. Tendering,
So
procure.
each project, we have a
Yes.
team managed by project manager from the PPP project tendering department, and members from the feasibility studies and financing, and members from the legal department. So these together form a team for the project,
Yeah, yeah.
monitored by the head of the PPP project and tendering central department, and definitely by the head of the department of the director of the PP central unit, or who is in my position.
You're true. Yes.
Okay? You'll find that we have another the main roles of the PP central unit. I've just described it as we're talking. Okay, uh, we the role of the PP central unit changes from one stage to another. During the studying, we are the main player with the line ministry. During the procurement, we're also the same, and we are in each committee in the process. Representative of the PPP Central Unit are in there, in the project preparation committee, in the project and the preparation of the tender documents or the pre-qualification documents or the contract. We are managing, and our officially 2 or 3 of our team is there in this committee. Okay, till we finish the financial closure and the project start construction and implementation. In this stage, when we feel that the line ministry is already taking over, understanding the project, we take one step back and we put in the contract that any correspondence between the two parties, the line ministry and the private sector, we should be on the CC, either
Oh,
letters or emails or whatever. We are on the CC and we are silent till we find something going wrong through these emails.
that's what I was gonna ask you, because see the last note you said, like, receive, investigate, and provide advice concerning complaints of investors. See, how are you dealing with your clients? I'm talking the clients, not the public sector. Public sector is like our brothers, I was like our family. But when we talk
Look,
about your investors, how do you deal with them regarding complaints and issues and implementation?
in the last article in our law, there is something called the uh, complaints committee. Okay, and I'll give you the procedures of this. But during the implementation of the project, we monitor what they are doing together. If we find that the private sector is not performing as per the contract, or we found that the public
Okay.
sector, and this is the normal, I mean, most cases, we found that the public sector is taking chance on the private sector or managing the contract wrongly, we interfere and we talk to the public entity. Watch out, private sector is not performing up to the standards as per article so and so. Okay, and in the very beginning, we give them, even we draft the letter that they should send to the private sector till they get acquainted. When we find that the public sector is taking chance on the private sector or abusing their powers, sorry for the word, but it happens
Yeah, it happens. No, it happens.
everywhere. Okay, we tell them that this is not your right. You don't have the right to do this. Okay, and we sit with them, and in some cases, we escalate it to their minister officially.
Nice, nice.
Okay, if
Mm.
they didn't respond properly and they start working as per the structure of the contract. So this is our role throughout the contract. What happens if there is a dispute
Yeah.
or there is a complaint? Complaints and disputes and disputes are different because complaints happens during the procurement. Okay,
There's
because
complaints, etc. It happens. Yeah.
yeah, there is a committee from the PP unit head by the Minister of Finance, because the Minister of Finance is always not involved in any of the projects. Okay, so headed by the Minister of Finance, 2 judges coming from the State Council, the
Mhm.
PP, the PP head director, who is in my position, and an independent advisor coming from the private sector. This is the committee.
Okay.
So we discuss the and study the complaint, and then this committee, by the law, has the upper power.
Mhm.
So when they say as if it's a court, once the decision is taken by this committee, the minister or the head of the authority of the project has to comply and has to fulfill it. Okay, so this is during the procurement. If the committee eliminated or disqualified or any one of the projects, okay, or any of the receiver, the clients, for instance, in the schools, for instance, in the project that you go, the parents, when they have a complaint of from the school
Students.
authority or the school management, they are not
Yeah.
complying with the rules or with the rights, they can complain directly to this.
So the end consumer can also file for complaint.
Yes, yes,
Wow. This
yes.
is something, okay. This is something rare, actually.
Because especially, look, the PP projects, you've got two main categories. Once, one of which is the government is the single
Sure.
customer,
Yes.
the client, which is the off-taker, like the
Yes.
power, electricity, the water, desalination, all this kind of utilities. The government is the off-taker, so the private sector is only dealing with the tendering authority. This is his client. He provide the service and take his money.
Mhm.
The second category are the projects that the government license the private sector to provide the service directly to the beneficiaries and take the cost of this service directly from the beneficiaries, like in the ports and in dry ports, in schools, in any projects that you're dealing, you license the private sector directly to provide the service to the this third party end users of the service. They have the right to complain. Okay, so they can complain to the tendering authority. If the tendering authority did not respond, they can complain for the compliant or complaint committee, as in Article 39 in our PP law.
But think about Mr. Hannoura. Anybody could come in and complain. I mean, like anybody on
No,
the street could come and complain,
no,
you
no,
know?
no. He have to
Could
be he have to be a beneficiary of this.
it's beneficiary.
Yes, I mean,
I
uh,
understand.
I mean, you have to be a parent of one of the students in the school,
Yeah.
and you are not satisfied with the service that is listed in the contract. By the way, for instance, for the schools on ports like this, we urge in the contract, we urge the private sector to put a very big sign in the school stating the rights of each member, of each
Wow.
user. Okay,
Wow.
so each one can go and see this is my rights. If I didn't receive my rights, which is the service level agreement, if I
Yes.
didn't receive it, then I have to write a complaint. I have to give evidence and so on. So this is the dealing with
Good
complaints.
place. Yeah.
Disputes are another thing.
Oh, this good.
Disputes,
Everybody knows how it is, you know. I mean,
yeah,
like it's
go
yeah.
to arbitration,
Disagree.
but before that, you have different steps on amicable solution, and we have something called the
Mediation as well.
monitoring committee, where we
Mm.
have an independent advisor, legal or technical, sorry, financial or technical advisor, independent, selected by both parties, and his fees are paid by both parties. Okay, and this committee is three members: the independent consultant, the
Yes.
public authority, and the and the statement of this committee is binding for both of them. But
Uh, as
if
as
yes,
arbitration, you know.
if that's it's let me say arbitration, but an agreed upon arbitration. But
Yes.
this is the first layer because this is very important because you cannot go for each and every problem or dispute between the two parties for
Sure.
arbitration.
Yeah, of
Number
course.
one, arbitration takes few months
That's
and,
true.
and years sometimes. Number two, arbitration is very expensive. You've got dispute on £1 million or $1 million. Okay,
You gotta pay a lot. You know.
you go to arbitration, you're paid 2 3 million.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know.
so I mean, there should be a committee that would take this and study it and have a say in. But if you're one of the parties did not like this statement of this committee, okay, of the project monitoring committee, he can go to the higher level, which is still amicable, which is, we call it the partnership committee. Higher authorities in each member, in each party, sit together, and if there is something that they can reach amicably, okay, then they agree on it. But the committee that I've just mentioned statement applies.
Mm-hmm.
And then we
Fine.
can sit on a higher level. If it complies, its decision complies with this statement, then it's okay. If not,
Yes.
then it supersedes because they're coming from through an agreement. And the third level is go to arbitration.
Yeah. Mr. Adar, we have like only like half an hour to complete, but just to
Okay,
put
I'll go quickly,
just
please. Procedures. This is the normal procedures of the any project. We the
typical PPP cycle, typical practice, which is
yes,
I'm looking at it
we
right now
go
for the first
feasibility
time.
study. The third arrow is the feasibility studies. After
Yes.
selecting the pipeline, and then we go to the Supreme Committee, as I mentioned, then the tendering, okay, and evaluation, and then awarding and implementation. So it's normal procedures.
Following global standard. Yeah,
This is
same.
the project life cycle in details. I would just want to comment on two or three issues of this, which is the procurement part.
It's funny when you say good private or good long term, you
Ah,
label it good.
because this is why good private sector selection, because this is one of our problems that I faced before, and one of the major projects was jeopardized because we didn't select properly the private sector in terms of qualification in the very early stage of pre-qualification, and this is very important stage because
Mhm.
it shortlist the actual the real companies or consortium that have the technical capacity and the financial capacity and the financing capacity and
Mhm.
definitely a legal capacity. So this is a critical part because if you exaggerate in your criteria, you'll find nobody, or you'll make it one or two companies. And if you go very light, you'll find a lot of companies coming in, and most of them are not suitable.
Can I be honest with you? The last qualification we did for a power plant a year ago, almost a year ago or so,
Mm.
we had to redo it again because it was extreme. Only 2 out of 7 qualified, which was a
Because
disaster.
this means that your
Stringent. It was very
criteria
stringent.
were very tight.
Yes. And
Okay,
we had to do it
and
again and clean it.
sometimes in the pre-qualification, not only the criteria are tight, maybe the criteria are moderate, which is fine, but the documents that you require is too much, and it
Yeah,
takes them a long time. So
yeah, that's
sometimes they are not qualified, not before because they are not capable, but they didn't have enough time to provide with the documents that you need. Because sometimes we ask for a certified piece of paper coming from a tendering authority and
yes.
notarized by the
That's right.
embassy and by the ministry. It takes them
Yeah,
ages.
we have
So
the same process.
I'm giving you I mean, why my mistakes. So you have to ask for something, only one part of this. If it happens, then all other procedures are done. For instance, when we ask them to get, it's very important to have a document from the tendering authority somewhere for the reference project that is submitting in the pre-qualification to say that this guy is doing this job properly
Okay. As a reference.
as a reference.
Yes.
And you want it, get it from this tendering authority or this competent authority at the different countries, okay, and tell them, just get it signed and stamped from them. And we call our embassy there, please tell them this letter, please ask if this letter is the right one or it was fabricated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Okay,
check it.
and it takes only 2 days or 3 days.
Mhm.
Okay, But if you ask him to go to the embassy and notarize it and ratify it, and then go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it take ages. Sometimes they cannot do it. Okay, so pre-qualification is very important. One thing I want to tell you about is our tendering documents, or the RFP as we call it. The system that I implemented from the very beginning is the tendering authority, the tender documents, which is RFP, does not include any technical or financial or legal conditions. So what's that done for them? We tell them in this document, it's a very short document, like
yes. I'm
30,
sorry.
40 pages. Tell them how to structure your proposal, technical and financial. And there's a lot of forms that you have to fill in and sign to make it easier for them. And what documents should be done. And then how you will be technically evaluated, and the pointing system and all that things. And the financial evaluation. Where's the project? Where's the documents? Where's the conditions?
You're only giving them instructions for bidders.
Look, we have got this document with some annexes. Okay. The last annex is the full-fledged draft contract.
Okay.
If you want to know what's your obligations, what's your rights, what's the technical or financial or legal or whatever, read the agreement. Read the draft agreement. And then we leave them something like 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the sophistication of the project, for the bidders to come to us with their clarifications. And I don't stop at the clarification. I open it to the bidders. If you don't like any article in the contract or in the annexes or in the document, just tell me which article, which contract, what's the wording that you have, and what's the suggested proposal from your side. But the last column is the most important. You have to tell me why. I have to understand from where he's coming. And I want to tell you that over 55% of the clarifications, we take it in our consideration. And sometimes we restructure the project or amend the documents. Because if you receive more than one comment on one article, this means that this article is not well drafted. This will lead to a dispute one day.
But look at this.
We have to clear
it. Let me challenge you on this. Now, this RFP, which the PPP Central Unit has already been released with approval from the Supreme Committee.
Yes.
And now you're giving it back to the bidders and asking them, let's get clarification.
Yes.
But if they coming everybody and there, there is like material deviations or like material requests, and there's some not. Now, do I have to go back to the Supreme Committee and say like, hey, this RFP is 40%, there's a problem with it, or maybe 50% there's a problem with it. The bidders are not accepting.
There's something here I wanted to clarify. That at the Supreme Committee, I don't give them the tender documents. Ministers at the committee will not read all this 300, 400 pages, and they are not required to do this. We give them all the feasibility study, technical and financial indicators, okay, and the structure of the projects and the risk allocation.
So okay. They don't have any qualification documents for RFP?
No, not at all. That's our role. That's the PPP role. Okay.
Wow.
So when we get the feedback, if any of the wording should be amended, or any of the documents are amended, or the articles are amended, or the wording have been more clarified, okay, after taking all these considerations, and one of the cases, one of the bidders said that your financial evaluation formula is not 100% proof, and he gave one single case that might hit this. We took it, we studied it, and then you're right, and we changed the term so it can be much more transparent. So it's very important to hear from them. And when we took all this request for clarifications, We answer it all, accept what should be accepted, and reject what not be rejected with some reasons, and we send it to every bidder, definitely without mentioning who asked which question. And then 2 weeks later, we give them the amended tender documents and draft contract. And we give them after that 2 months or 3 months, depending on the project, to submit their final proposal. After this, after evaluation, we don't go for contract negotiation. We don't negotiate the contract
Yes.
because we already did negotiate the contract with the bidders transparently through the procurement. We took their comments. We have a
Ah,
one-to-one meeting with
the
everybody.
negotiation phase.
Yes,
Wow.
because the problem is when you start negotiating the contract after that, you might change something that would be of a benefit to the bidder, and other bidders, if they
Yeah,
had,
no, it will be
if they have
imbalanced. It
noticed
will be
this, they
imbalanced in
might.
technical or financial wise. I know. Yeah.
Yes. So I negotiate in practice. I negotiate the contract and the tender documents with all bidders transparently.
Yeah.
That's number one. I took all the comments of everybody. So I enhanced my documents. I enhanced my contract from the feedback coming from the bidders. Okay. And all the bidders participated in amending or drafting, let me say, the agreement. So they had some kind of ownership.
Yes.
And this is done transparently. Accordingly, when I give them the final document to submit accordingly, okay? Once we award, we get this final contract, we fill in the spaces, and then we sign it. The only thing that we might change is the implementation procedures. When to start, when to finish. Instead of 2 years, make it 15, 18 months, things like this. But all the main terms of the contract are non-negotiation. خلاص, finished.
Well,
Okay.
so seriously, like I'm learning right now. It's very good actually to even enhance, our current procurement process.
Yes. I want to tell you something out of this procedures. It was very much appreciated by the IFIs,
Mhm.
and some of the countries took this system. And I want to tell you that doing this process, we didn't receive in the 70 something project that we signed, we didn't receive a single complaint from any bidder, even the bidders who didn't succeed, because everything was very transparent. You didn't negotiate apart from other bidders.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so any condition have been changed is been available for everybody to submit his bid
We,
accordingly.
we, we did personally, I mean, like, in my experience in our firm, we receive kind of complaints about, like, why are you negotiating both when you say preferred bidder and then sitting down negotiating with them? It could be matters which could have been negotiated earlier. So, like, there is imbalance in the transparency and competition.
Look, I'll tell you why I did this system in the very beginning when we started the PP. Before in the PP, I was working for the World Bank, and then before that, I was a bidder for almost 23 years.
So you had your share.
Yes, and while I was a bidder, I was a very naughty bidder. Actually, I stopped and jeopardized a lot of tenders.
Okay.
Why? Because normally you get the tender documents with all the financial and technical conditions so you can study it well and then submit your bid. And then the awarded bidder is invited to sign the contract and he see the contract for the first time.
Ah, okay, okay.
And
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes you find that some of the terms of the contract was not mentioned properly in the terms and the tender documents. So there is something that might have a financial impact, a kind of service which has a financial impact. I didn't put it in my calculations, so I will not be
Yes.
signing on it as a bidder. So both parties are in problem: the
Yeah.
tendering authority and the private sector. The tendering authority because they don't want to tender again. They spent already a few months, so they don't want to tender, and their minister or their higher authority will give them hard time. The second thing is the private sector, who already have an award, a letter of award, plus his price was already known to everybody, so he don't want to go back in the tender. So both of them wants to get it done, so they have to sit together and start negotiating. And the tender, the public authority would relieve some of the conditions, and the private sector do the same, so they can reach a kind of compromise with the price given. Okay. Previously, when I was a bidder, when I have a tender like this, which I don't have an opportunity in, I tender and I give a very high price. I don't have enough time to study. Okay, and I stay monitoring what's will going on till we notice that they are reaching a compromise, and I got some relations inside to tell me what's going on. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Once I know that there is a kind of compromise, I send an official letter to the tendering authority. We have noticed that during the negotiation, you waived this condition and you waived this condition. And if we knew that this condition would be waived, we would be the best price.
Typical statement made by every bidder. I know that.
I used to do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to kill this out, because
Yeah.
in the PPP, procurement takes a year or more. I don't have the enough time or enough capacity, or even financially.
We have to
look
treat
at the
everybody on like using the same ruler. If you have the same ruler, everybody has to be treated fairly and
Yeah.
equally with all
So
access.
that's why I'm telling this is the document that you would be signing, and I don't extract anything from the contract and put it there, except for the bid bonds and the value of the bid bonds, something like this. But you will be signing this. Study it well. If you've got comments, give me a comments. Everybody, these comments will be disseminated to everybody, and then all of them would have a single document to bid against. This is something.
Mr. Atter, if you have anything else to add to this cycle.
No. That's the thing that I want to.
Yeah.
One thing here, which actually I want to discuss during the amendments of the law, but I'll give it here, which is the sometimes, that's why we amended the contract, the agreement, the law. Sometimes you find that you have 5 bidders submitted their bids, all of them technically accepted, technically perfect, and you have your public sector comparator, for instance, hypothetically $1 million, and bidders are giving the prices of 900,000, 950, 970, and you find one bidder giving you 600,000.
So far away from the general overall average
Yeah.
price. Mhm.
And technically he's the best or perfect, okay, and he's the best price, but he's very much apart, 30 or 40% from your public sector competitor and from other bidders. You have an issue.
Yes,
There is a
it's
problem.
questionable.
One of my project was jeopardized because of this, because we have, as per the law, if he's technically compliant and he's the best price, then take him. You cannot say, sorry, I will not take you.
I mean, before you take him, you have to research into where is the trick.
And the problem is that we discovered that after signing or awarding, we discovered that when we were studying his financial model, that he skipped some of the costs of the components of the cost and miscalculate
Miscalculated.
some of the risk. Accordingly, he is a loser. He will lose.
So in the financial
And the banks
assessment,
did not finance him. So we changed the law
yeah,
to give the right to the committee. Okay, if they find if it's an auction or a least price, depending. If you find that one price is singing separately, is far from other bidders and the public sector competitor, and he should be awarded, before awarding, you have to call him. This is in the law.
Okay.
You have to call him and ask him for justification. Why your part? Okay, and if the justification is appropriate, then you can award him. If not, you tell him, sorry, I'll take the next one. And I'll give you here, it's not subjective, it's very objective. Because one of the cases, he told me that everybody is getting 14% interest rate on his loans, and I'm getting 1%. From where are you getting 1%? Because my Exim Bank in my country, it was Korean, is
Yeah.
wants to support Korean companies, and they are giving very low interest rate to go and compete, because by that time Chinese were killing them out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very good justification. Give me your term sheet stating this. Thank you very much. Give me your financial model, because the financial model now is part of the tendering of his documents. Okay, so we take the financial model, tell him, all right, I'll take off this 1% and substitute it by 13% as other.
Whatever it's got.
Yes. If the price came to within the same figures, thank you very much. You're the best.
That means the financial model is solid. It's
Yes.
working.
And this justification is, but if I change this 1% with the 13%, as example, for instance, and then I found his prices instead of 600, it went to 700. Then
That
still,
means
there is another reason,
yeah.
not justified. Give me the justification. Oh, I forgot to put the operation cost, or I didn't forget, I didn't calculate the. There is a mistake in calculation. The cost of maintenance. We dropped the cost of maintenance, or very famous issue. We dropped the cost of replacement over the 25 years. Okay, if you done though, thank you very much. I cannot trust your bid. Then I have the all this. You cannot do it unless this committee is supported by law and regulations and procedures.
Of
So
course.
we've done this, and this
To
was
protect
actually
its
a very
activity, to
important.
support it.
Pardon?
To protect its activities and support it as well.
And protect the contract, because
Yes.
if you don't put these procedures, and anybody challenged the procurement procedures, okay, you're affecting the contract. You're jeopardizing the contract.
Yes.
But when you put it in a legal way and procedures, clear procedures and justification, no one can stop you. So
Mr.
this
Atter,
was
we have like only 15 minutes left, yeah?
okay. Just go ahead. This is indexations we've talked about before. This is some of the inflation rate and interest rate. I'll go quickly for it. Normally, when you have advisors coming from Europe or from America, they come and ask you that, as happened with us in 2007. Guys, you ask the private sector to give you the so-called unitary payment. The unitary payment is a figure, okay, cost of the service, that you will continue paying this figure for the next 20 years or 25 years. So it's one Egyptian pounds or one dirham or one dinar, whatever.
The tariff, typical tariff.
You continue to pay this one for the next 20 years. It will not be 1.1 or 1.5.
Okay.
This means that the private sector included or factored in his pricing the inflation rate and the interest rate. Interest rate is normal, okay, but the inflation rate is normal for some countries, but in Egypt and other countries like Egypt, like middle income countries, the inflation in Europe used to be between 1.5% to 2.5%. It's an envelope that they are going back and forth within this envelope. So it's easy for the private sector to get an average of this, okay, and factor it in his price. But in Egypt, when I was a bidder, when I tell me, give me a price for your service for the next 5 years, I go back 10 years and start drawing a graph of inflation. And I found it goes to 23%, 17%, 8%, back to 14, back to 33. And this is a big variation, okay? Because our economy is not as theirs. Our currency is not as theirs. So this means if I ask the private sector to factor in his interest rate, he will take a very high interest rate to save himself. So he'll take an average of 20%, and he would factor it in his price. So what if when the inflation rate
Goes down.
goes down to 11% and 12% and 10%?
You will still be stuck. It's not a
I will
variable.
still be paying for the 20%, which is
Yeah.
not, and this is an extra profit for the private sector. In this case, I told him, excuse me, I will take the risk of inflation and put it on the government side, not the private sector side. And I asked the private sector,
To how much can you put?
I'll tell you,
Yeah.
without limits, I'll tell you how. I asked the private sector to put his price with zero inflation. Okay? So his pricing is with zero inflation. We put a formula in the contract where the private sector and the government together will put the inflation each year. So this year, it's 10%. We will add the 10%. Next year is 12%. Year after, it's 9%. So you will apply the actual inflation on the price. Okay? So if the price is for the desalination water cubic meter is $1, for instance, then 10%, the cost will be next year how much? $1.1.
For example, yeah, if you're using 1%,
No,
10%.
it's not like this. It will be much more less because the inflation is only applied on the OPEX section and the OPEX part and the
Yeah.
OPEX part of the price. So this price of $1 is 70% capex and 30% OPEX. So they apply the 10% on the OPEX operation
Yeah.
cost only. Okay. And I pay it actual, so there is no cushions or there is no contingencies that the private sector put. The interest rate, actually, everybody now in the world is suffering very high interest rates. Okay, and this means that the interest rates will come down within the next few years. And last week, the USA Treasury dropped the interest rate by 50 basis points, half percent. So this means that the trend of so we said the same. We'll take the interest rate, deviation, interest rate changes on the part of the private or the public sector. This means that you price your system, your pricing as of the financial agreements today, and each year we'll revisit the interest rate and apply the new interest rate on the outstanding debt.
Okay. Okay. I got it. Yeah.
And then in this case, either if the interest rate increases, then this $1 will be 1.005, or if it's the interest rate decreases, then it will not be $1.1, it will be 0.95x.
You do it on a fiscal year, not on calendar year, right?
And I put it I don't know, you can do it both ways, by the way. You can do it even on a fiscal year, on a calendar year.
Okay.
Because you will take the beginning of the year, interest
Yeah.
rate is 10%. 12 months later, you will check it. Now it's 13%. Because the interest rate is announced every day.
That's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, makes no difference if you put it a calendar day or a fiscal day year, because the interest rate is announced daily. So you can take one shot here, one shot, and compare. So this is some of the experiences that we gained. Can you go, please?
Yes, sir.
Next. Next. This is our law. The first part of the law is the definitions. The second is this institutional framework, the Supreme Committee, central unit, satellite unit, the role of each of one. Next, please. The third chapter is the important chapter, which is the procurement procedures and the competitive dialogue and two-stage tendering, and how to calculate the public sector competitor and to do the
Is it
pre-qualification.
available on your unit website in languages in English or Arabic?
It was on the website before our website has been hacked, and now we're doing another website which will be out to the market within the next month.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
We have it in both languages actually,
Good.
and the chapter 4 is very important because it puts the main head of terms of a contract. Okay, PPP contracts cannot go copy and paste.
Yes.
Each project by itself on this time, because economics changes, legal framework changes. So what's applicable now is not applicable later.
That's
But there is main overhead terms, you have to put it. Okay. What was amended here? We have a new contractual form, which is the direct order, which you discussed before, and unsolicited proposals. Okay, and the limited tenders. But the limited tenders here is done through a pre-qualification. So you do a when you want to select five or
invite.
six players, you have to get
Yeah.
them from a qualified list.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one thing. The other thing is to accelerate the procedures. I made the pre-qualification, which is very important again. I made the pre-qualification not obligatory as before. It's an option based on the vision of the PP Center. And there is something called the bundle of projects uh, uh, pre-qualification. This means, as we mentioned, pre-qualification is very important. Normally, the normal procedure is we do the pre-qualification. So we do pre-qualification first, then shortlisted from the pre-qualification, we go for the procurement. Right? Now we have the right to do something called the post-qualification. So I don't do pre-qualification. I call for a tender immediately.
With the bid, it comes. His qualification with the bid itself.
Yes, with the bid itself, it comes in three sections.
But
First
it's
section, pre-qualification. Second envelope is your technical proposal. Third
financial.
envelope is the financial proposal. And we check first envelope first. If you're qualified, we will open the rest. If not, thank you very much.
Did it work out fine? Because it's risky.
It's very risky because during pre-qualification, what you are after, what's your aim of qualifying? You want to qualify as much bidders as you can, which are compliant with your criteria.
That's true.
So sometimes the bidders, even big names, very big names, international figures, they submit their proposal, but they are missing a document, or they are missing some clarification, or the reference project is not the appropriate one, or. In this case, we call them and send them letters. This is not complying with us. If you have provided, you can provide us with this document, or this document is not stamped, it is not signed, or I mean, you have some liberty to communicate with them to make them amend their proposal so they can be qualified, because they are technical and financially fine, but there's some documents that are missing.
You want qualified people, not
and you want to get as much bidders as you can.
That's true.
When you move this from a pre-qualification to a post-qualification, it takes the nature of a bid. You don't have
a single submission. You cannot go and submit
you're compliant. Thank you very much. You're not.
Yeah.
Hard luck.
Let me tell you about one case. We have one company who developed a project, a power plant here, successfully, and who have also qualified in thermal power plants. But when it came to renewable power plants, he failed in the qualification. So it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. He failed not on submission. He failed because he's technically doesn't have the proper background for renewable projects.
Yes,
It happens.
yes. I mean, big names.
I'm
Because
telling you, this is a big
that's why
name. Very big
that's
name.
why it's very important, Naif, to put the criteria of pre-qualification properly, and you have to test this criteria with the market from
Mhm.
through your advisors, okay, even with the internet and everything. So you can say that this criteria is not limiting you for 2 or 3 bidders. This is give you 5 or 6 or 7 bidders, okay, with decent capacity, definitely. So another thing that we practiced actually, and I've made this a perfect thing, is the bundle of projects pre-qualification.
Yeah,
I have
for
I
a
have
system.
five or
Yeah.
6 or 7 projects that will be wastewater or desalination that I will be tendering within the next 1.5 years. Instead of doing pre-qualification for each project, I announce that I am tendering 6 or 7 or 8 projects within the next 1 or 2 years, and whoever want to be qualified, and this is the criteria. In the desalination projects, we had something like 15 projects. We faced one problem, which is desalination projects. We have 50,000 cubic meter per day and 200,000 cubic meter per day and 600 and 700,000 cubic meter per day.
You have
Different
huge.
capacities. And
Mhm.
who will be qualified for this 100,000 will never be qualified for the 700.
That's true.
Okay. To differentiate this, we issued the pre-qualification, bundle pre-qualification with categories. Category A, B, C, and D. So D is to up to
200.
200,
Yeah.
400, 600, 1 million. And
Yeah.
each category have its set of criteria, the thresholds of the criteria. And
Yeah.
it
Very
worked
good.
perfectly. It saved
Yeah.
a lot of time. And it saved another thing. When you want to get a quick tender, limited tender, you will get from this guys. You
Mr.
already
Akhtar, we
know
have only 5-7 minutes before, to allow.
we can go for this. Uh,
Okay. This is the
again, again,
history.
again. This is the awards. It's nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
project under tendering. I'll go very, very quickly on it. That we have already a wastewater treatment plant under tendering, which should be evaluated and awarded within the next 4 months. It's 150,000 cubic meter per day. The contract term is 20 years, and it's almost $100 million cost. Next page.
Okay. So this is the Okay. So the qualification is already over, right?
No, finished qualification. I already have 5 bidders qualified, 5 consortium
Okay. So
qualified.
it's in tendering process right now.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Great. This one.
We have that's an investor center. We have a
Mhm.
very, very huge industrial area for marble and stones. It's called the place is called Shaq Taban, yani for the
Mhm.
Arabic people. Okay, this is a very huge workshops and factories. It's almost 2,000 fadans, something like this,
Yeah.
uh, uh, with around 1,900 factories and workshops
Yes.
for marble. And this area does not have enough decent service centers. So we selected a very prime location in this area on the main roads, and we asked the private sector to come and design, build, finance a building, huge building, for services. In this building or this center, you will have showrooms, you will have office buildings, you'll have meeting rooms, conference rooms, stages, all this because they don't have it in their factories. They want, and the factories are very dusty and very problematic, so they cannot receive customers there. We'll have hospital, small hospital for emergency and issues, because a lot of accidents happens during dealing with this. We will have some public services like the commercial registries, industrial renewing the industrial certificates and licenses, notary notarization office, all kind of services that they need. We'll have an office for them there.
Yeah.
Okay, plus banks, plus shipping agencies, because they export a lot. All this will be in this. The second phase of schools, we already have the first phase. The first phase was almost
20 schools, 22 schools. Wow.
the first one was actually there are 24. That's a mistake. 24
Mhm.
schools, and the second phase we're starting with 22 schools, and now we have additional lands, so we reach something like 39 schools. That's the second phase that we're working on now. It will be tendered within the next 2 weeks.
Nice. Wallah, nice.
Okay. Desalination project I've just mentioned before. We've done the pre-qualification for about 15 projects, and we have a short list of 17 qualified bidders on different categories. Okay, and we are preparing for the first batch, which will be tendered within the next 6 to 8 weeks of desalination. But it's a very big project, which is 15 projects for the next 5 years and around 49 projects for the next 25 years. Next, please. That's under tendering now. The pipeline, I'll go very quickly. Ministry of Housing. We have Abu Rawash wastewater sludge treatment. This is a very big, huge wastewater treatment plants, 1.6 million cubic meter per day, which is under expansion to 2 million cubic meter per day. And they produce something like 700 tons of sludge every day. And this sludge is turning to be a problem. So this project is for the private sector to come and treat the sludge, okay, and use any technology that they need and produce any product that they need from this structure, like electricity, biogas, fertilizers, bricks.
A
Okay,
lot of things I did because I did this project here, like locally. A lot of things that they could benefit from.
so
Yeah.
we will ask them to come and get the technology and select the way that the technology and the product that they want. We are preparing now for the pre-qualification, which will be issued within the next December. Okay. Other projects here, it's industrial wastewater treatment plants. We have 3 industrial wastewater treatment plants. We are preparing for the first 2 now to be approved by the Supreme Committee next month in November. Once approved, we'll start the pre-qualification and tender. Next, please. These are substations, as the one that I mentioned before.
Electrical substations. Yeah.
Yes, it's not generating power.
No,
It's
no, no.
it's
Transmission.
transformation, yes,
Yeah.
and distribution and networks. So we have something like 7 projects in different capacities, and one of which are very huge. It costs something like 1 million Egyptian pounds, or 1 billion Egyptian pounds, sorry, 1 billion Egyptian pounds, or 1.3 Egyptian pounds, which is almost 250 or 270 million dollars. We are out of this. There are 7 or 5, out of which we will be tendering very soon. 3 of which, or 4 of them, once we get the approval from the Supreme Committee, which will be in November, next November. Next, please. These
And
are
this
the
situation the same. Yeah.
another projects with the
A lot of
sludge.
wastewater treatment plants.
Look, we have, why I'm doing this differentiate, because this is something strange a little bit. The wastewater treatment plants and the water treatment plants and desalination are under different authorities. So some of which under the holding company of water and wastewater, and some
Mhm.
of which under the new urban development authority.
Okay.
Okay, so the tendering authority here are changed. However, they are the same projects, but under two different tendering authorities.
Different procurement company. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So these are different projects, 400,000 cubic meter per day, 700,000, 100,000, and 90,000 cubic meter per day. Different project. The first two are under preparation now for the next Supreme Committee.
And you have
Ministry of
also
Transportation. Well,
wow.
we've got some dry ports. This is the third dry port, and this is not a container dry port. It's dry bulk.
Yeah.
Next, please.
And Benny's
Another
way.
dry port
Dry port.
in Beniswave.
Mm.
This is under studies, and still we're studying the competition and the capacity and the demand risk to see if it would be feasible or not. Next, that's multi-purpose terminal in it's a berth platform in the Khela Seaport. The Khela Seaport is one of the big seaports just adjacent or next to Alexandria Port in the north coast in the Mediterranean Sea.
And it's under feasibility study.
Yes, all this are under preparation. This is a pipeline which once we finish it, the Supreme Committee we present each project to the Supreme Committee. Once approved by the Supreme Committee, we start tendering.
I believe this will be very interesting for a lot of people.
Yes, dry bulk terminal in the Khela port, the same another dry bulk terminal.
And you have
Dirty bulk. This is a very important one. This only deals with the dirty bulk, like some oils or grease or something like this. That petroleum derivatives. I mean, this is a separate area in the port that will be dealing only with such projects, with the such commodities. Okay. This is three strategic warehouses in Egypt. Here we have this country into 7 zones. Each zone will have a strategic, huge warehouse to secure the main products of food and commodities.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking commodities as supplies, as food
No, no,
supplies.
no. It's the final consumer products
Yeah.
like oil, rice, meat,
Yeah. Yeah.
cheese, whatever,
Lentil, potato.
macaroni, lentil, all this kind of project. In its the form of to be consumer packed.
Okay.
Okay, and these are up to the standard. I mean, class A project to save a lot of wastes during handling and dealing and storing, and to be always available in case of any wars, of any
Yeah.
supply chain problems. We have the
Strategic
supply.
warehouse.
Yes, we have the supply of 6 months at least of this project for food security. Okay, we've started the 3, and we're continuing with another 3 warehouses. Sorry, wholesale markets. We have already some wholesale markets in Egypt, but this is another level of wholesale markets. But this area will not only deal with the wholesale markets, it will include already some services for the sellers
Wholesalers.
and buyers, and also we'll have some banks, hospital, we'll have some factories for packaging, foam, and all this kind of products that they need
All the
of day to
logistic
day.
services around it. Yeah.
So it will be different.
This is very interesting, actually.
Yes. This is the last slide here. I don't have really project for the Ministry of Health because we are working with the Ministry of Health for the almost last month for preparing some pipeline with them, and hopefully we can reach some projects that we have and will be announced maybe in end of December or something else, mid-December.
Mr.
Sorry
Abid, you
for
have
taking you so long, and sorry for the technical problems that we faced in the
no,
very beginning.
I have there's only some questions here. I'm just gonna raise it, just share it with you and see, like,
Yes.
Somebody's asking, one of our attendees, I believe, this question. Okay, so Dudon asking is like, is it possible to share your presentation with attendees? Is it possible, Mr. Atif?
Please, please.
Okay. And the same person is asking, like, who's the leader of the procedure? I believe maybe the procedure, I think, I'm not sure if you could just clarify what procedure is referring to. And also we have attendee Zuleika from Malaysia. She's asking, how do you decide the EIRR for the winning bidders, and does your concession period depends on EIRR?
This is a very important project and question, and it will take some time. But in,
All maximum 1 minute, so because we have.
this, look, while studying the project, as you know, we do two studies. One study, what if, in case that the government will do this project entirely by themselves, and another study, what if the private sector will do it under the PP structure? And we have to have that the savings coming from the PP to that's the value for money issue.
Okay.
After this, we assume an decent IRR related to the interest rate, okay, and related to the inflations, okay, and other opportunities, because this is kind of the study of the financial, because we do a financial model as the project, as the bidders.
Okay,
After
Mr.
that, we take this, once we say that this is a PP project, we do something, I call it the shadow bid model. We put ourselves as a bidder and we submit a bid. Assuming, I mean, we compete with the bidders. So we do a financial model as if we are bidding. We assume that we are technically perfect.
Yeah, we do this also in the feasibility study. We
Yes.
do our own financial model.
But after that, we do this shadow bid model, and we submitted sealed on the day of bid submission.
Okay.
So we can capture the latest economical situation, and the evaluation committee by the end of the day compares this shadow bid model as a comparator, okay, with the successful bid. But we do
What
not,
happens? What
we do
happens
not,
if shadow bid wins?
but this is the, by the way, this is a very important part because sometimes we miscalculate the risks, okay?
Yeah, so of course, you're
And
always
in case,
involved.
but normally we are always above others in price. We are more than others in price. But in case that we have this, which happened one case, and I changed the law, so we did this. In case that we have our bid or other bidders coming higher than our public sector comparator or our shadow bid model, this means that we miscalculate things. If
Okay.
within 20% price difference, okay, with justification, we can accept this. Okay, we don't jeopardize or cancel the entire the procedures. We say that within 20% with justification, and we submit it to the Supreme Committee. Excuse me, we've done this mistake, or there's some financial or economical issues that have been changed, so it's not complying, and this is the justification. And if they accept it, then we continue. If not, we have to retender it or negotiate with the business.
Right, the last question, and only 1 minute left for us, is Ms. Atar. Also, Zuleika from Malaysia is asking, does your project has some sort of government commitments, for example, like paying the availability charges, which is rental charges, maintenance charges to the SPV company? I think, even to relate to this, Zuleika, it depends on like the structure of the contract itself. I mean, like, is it based on the tariff? This tariff is including charges? Is it to the end user? You also may answer to that, Mr. Ator.
Yes, actually, as I mentioned before, the PPP project splits into two. Either the government is the off-taker, so the
Mhm.
services are provided to the government. So it's a power generating project. The government is buying all the power, and then the government is redistributing it with some subsidies here and some different pricing. This is the government issue. Okay, so the government is the off-taker, and accordingly, the government is the buyer of the service, and they have to pay him. So the government has to pay to the SPV company the cost of the service,
Yes.
like in power, water, desalination, wastewater treatment plants, and other projects. But the second party is the private sector is licensed to sell or to provide the service directly to the beneficiaries, to all people, like in the ports or the dry ports. The dry ports, the users or the beneficiaries are the importers and the exporters. Okay, so he have to charge them with the service that he provides. Like in schools, for instance, he provides the service, and there is an agreed on tuition fees that the parents have to pay for the private sector. So there are a lot of examples here. For the projects that the government is the off-taker, the government has to pay to the private sector because they are the only single client.
Mr. Atter, I cannot thank you very much today. I have
Thank
learned
you.
every time I meet you, I learn something new.
Oh,
No, seriously, because I have learned a lot, seriously. And believe me, we would like to get a copy of like the latest Egyptian PPP law. I've learned a lot today. There's a lot of things, even for me personally, I'd like to improve. You know, you have mentioned a lot of stuff. Some situation we're stuck on. We'd like to learn from you. Thank you a lot on behalf of WAPP, its president, executive director, my colleagues as well, for for your contributions. My colleagues in the chapter, the MENA chapter, we're very proud about like what you have discussed. I believe also this will be recorded and also shared like in our channel. You know, for like even the YouTube for everybody else. We didn't have like enough time. There's always more time, but I know for sure that there will be further webinars talk about like certain, technical issues and certain like, procurement issues we'd like everybody to welcome to. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Abba.
It's my pleasure and honor. And the email, my email is on the system or on the presentation. If anyone wants to ask any question, I'm more than happy to respond.
Thank you. And to all the attendees today and everybody in our WAP community, thank you very much for attending.
Thank
And hopefully that this recording will be made available through our channel, as well as would like you to keep following us for further future updates. Mr. Atter, attendees, thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.